Hi, I'm Dick Wagner. Welcome to the Crest Network. Today I want to talk to you about why employees resist change. Yes, employees, and as is human nature, we all resist change, but often employees resist change even when the change is really good for them. Reason number one, usually it's poor communication by management. In other words, the reason or the purpose for the change wasn't made really clear. Secondly, there in the employer's mind, there was good reason and good value, but they fail to convey the reason. So the employees don't really know. They have to second guess what the reason is. When employees are guessing, they will always think the worst. If your employee knows the reason, they don't think the worst. But when they're hanging and they're imagining, their imagination runs wild. And sadly, sometimes management just simply doesn't think that the changes require any explanation. Number two, employees often fear the unknown. We all do in almost everything. The employee wonders how the change is going to affect them. Will they work harder? Will their hours change? Will they be dumped with new responsibilities that they don't even understand or know? Knowing the benefits of the change, explaining those benefits, why they're useful, valuable, why the change is needed is extremely important. And it's not just the major changes that happen either. It's sometimes a very little change that you might think is subtle as an owner, but it's a really big deal to that employee. Something as simple as, hey, I want you to start coming in at 8:30 from now on instead of 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, if we don't know the reason, we're going to wonder and think, and oh boy, is he cutting my hours? Is he planning on squeezing me out? What's the reason? And so even minor changes or what seem like minor changes to you might be big deals to the employee. Often when changes happen, management fails to provide the appropriate transitional support. They don't give clear explanations that are certainly important to the employee. They just often throw them into the deep end and say, there you go, hope you can swim. And that's certainly wrong as well, because change is hard for almost everybody, including me talking to you today. Change is hard. When support is provided, change isn't quite as difficult. And so the pressure is off to some degree. Number four, employees, yeah, you might chuckle at this, but the employees are actually grieving about their loss. What is their loss? It's whatever you changed. Whatever was familiar to them that is now gone away. The new takes over. It's almost a death in the family. And that's often how employees will react to it. They might very well miss the way it used to be. And as in traditional loss of a family member or somebody close to us, they will often feel denial, anger, depression, and they might even consider bargaining to try and minimize or eliminate or prevent or stop or slow down that loss. And yes, they might even feel they're being replaced, especially when that change involves switching management or employee positions and titles and roles and duties. They suddenly feel they're replaced by some other expert. You see, they thought they were expert in their own specific role. They were familiar with it. They knew their job very likely. Hopefully they did it well. And so they feel that now someone else is doing my job. I'm no longer the expert in that situation. They want to feel that they have expert status in whatever their arena or field or area of work is. And when you take that away and they feel they're replaced, they no longer feel as important. They certainly don't feel as indispensable. And so you're going to have to provide for them encouragement and help and guidance and reasons why they want to learn new things. We've had a lot of employees over the years, when changes happened, will simply say, hey, whoa, time out. This isn't what I signed up for. Well, we can address that in a lot of different ways, but the bottom line is that they want business as usual. They want their job to remain what they're familiar with, what they're comfortable with. They know the expectations, and now with change, that suddenly everything is unpredictable, it's unreliable. And we all want a degree of predictability and reliability in our life. And there are many people, when change happens, they feel like the other person now doing their job is, or part of their job is, redundancy that they don't like. It's called cross-training, and it's extremely important in your business, but the employees aren't going to embrace that very well unless you, right out of the gate, make it clear that this is what's going to happen in the organization. There's going to be cross-training. There's going to be redundancy, because that's good for business. When changes happen, employees feel extremely vulnerable. Too many times, an employer or the management team does not consult or involve those people that are being changed. Don't involve them in any way. It's sad that management fails to include key staff. In fact, any of the staff that are going to be affected by the change, they don't include them. And there is no discussion of why this change needs to take place. Obviously, it has to be good for the business, and that's the reason why, but it has to be explained to the employee. Early engagement with your employees on why there is a change will make them feel far more valuable. And, surprise, surprise, they might even have a brilliant idea or two, because you and they are just like me. We don't like to be forced to make a change. Changes that unfairly affect the employees can also happen. Sometimes not all changes are always great, ultimately, for every employee. Yeah, sometimes we have to bite the bullet and say, you know what? We had a bus, and we had certain seats on the bus, and now we have changed buses, and there are either less seats or more seats, and we've put different people in different seats. And not every person that was riding the previous bus will always be assured of riding the new bus. Things change. Employees sometimes have to be dismissed. Sometimes unfairly affecting employees is simply sending a message that they're not important. And unless you plan on terminating that employee, they are important, and you need to convey that message that they are important. Many times, changes will adversely, negatively impact the employees. So make sure that they're completely in the loop and understand the reasons. So I want to recap. I went through this pretty fast, and I just want to read down through once again those key 8 things that affect your employees when change happens and why they resist that change. They often resist change because of poor communication by management. Employees often fear the unknown. There is no transitional or help or support or guidance for them. Sometimes the employees treat that change as if they're grieving the loss of a loved one. Many times employees feel like they're getting replaced by a brand new expert, which means they're no longer the expert in that particular role anymore. It isn't what they signed up for. Yeah, I can tell you over the years, I have heard that sentence many, many, many times by employees. Employers often aren't consulted or involved in those decisions to make changes. And number 8, changes sometimes unfairly affect the employees, and you need to be sensitive to that and try to work to resolve that with everybody involved. I'm Dick Wagner. You've been watching the Crest Network. Today we are talking about why employees resist changes. Hope you had a good learning experience. Hope you can put all of this to good use. Thanks. Bye-bye.